Thank you all for being here. Therapy is hard, but finding it doesn't have to be. With Mynd, we envision a world where there are no underserved populations, where therapists can be empowered to connect with more prospective patients than ever before, and where anybody who needs care can get it. On the right, that's me, if you believe it, and the guy on the left is my older brother, Austin. In October 2012, he died of a drug overdose while he was away at college. There were so many people around him who wanted to help, and yet, in his final weeks, it probably felt like they were a universe away. His story is extreme, but he's not alone. There are 43 million American adults who suffer from a mental illness any given year. 66% of them are not getting the treatment that they deserve. This means there are 28 million adults who are not getting the mental health treatment that they desperately need. That's why we will stop at nothing until care is more accessible than ever and anybody who needs it can get it.
So I'm going to break down the problem for you. There are 28 million people who are not getting the care that they need, mental health services. There's just information overload. So if you were to do a Google search, like today I could go and do a Google search, I would get thousands of results. And then from there, I would have to contact each of these therapists. So let's say I narrow it down to maybe 10. Then I go and contact them. We'll be going back and forth a dozen emails to try to find a time with somebody I haven't even met yet. I don't even know anything about this person other than some profile that I saw or something that was on Google. So it's pretty overwhelming. And we talked about availability, and then you have to try to set up schedules so that they match. The cost right now, it's $175 per session, and in DC, upwards of $200 or more. So the cost is pretty high. And then you got to think about how to get there. So that can be challenging for those who are veterans, the aging population, or for those who have disabilities. And we had a chance to do some custody discovery interviews through the National Science Foundation I-Core training program here at GW, and we conducted 47 customer interviews. We worked with students, deans, and therapists. So I'll start with the students. As we interviewed the students were saying, the process is overwhelming. I'm already in this vulnerable state. I'm admitting that I have this issue, and now I have to go and reach out and find somebody who will meet with me. And this is what I get, a list of referrals from the counseling center. What do I do with this? And so not only are they finding it difficult, but then so are the deans and provosts. So I had the privilege of meeting with a lot of the deans and provosts and asking them, what are some of the problems that you see here? And they're saying, this is an outdated system. We give them this handout. I mean, they could lose it, you mark it up, who knows where it goes. So they're finding that it is a difficult process for students and that they're trying to reach as many students as possible. So they're looking for outsourced care. They're even looking out for other options as well. It's a financial drain. So whatever they can do to make it cheaper for students to access care, they're certainly looking in those directions. And then lastly, we were talking to therapists. What are therapists doing in terms of reaching these students? They intentionally, therapists that we spoke to, each and every one of them said that they came to DC to be closer to universities. And they're finding that, to make it convenient for students, they could just come in between classes or what have you. And they're finding that students are not even coming out to reach out for care. So even though they're trying to go and meet with these students, it's an untapped market. And this is where we think we can help them also access the student population.
Now, the experiences of these people suggest that there's an immense demand out there for a way to make the system better. And the numbers back that up. As I already said, there are 43 million adults in America who suffer from mental illness. 28 million of them are not getting treatment. This is a huge problem, and it needs to be tackled in steps. The biggest reason that care cannot be effectively deployed to people right now is because of the cost of doing so, acquiring users, bringing people together. To abate this problem, we've identified an existing sales channel that we can leverage to bring people to the platform automatically on a recurring basis: college counseling centers. There are 200,000 students who have a mental health issue and may engage with the counseling center in any given year. Of those 200,000, 60,000 get referred out to find care in the environment around them. But as we've already gone over, this system is outdated. So how are we going to provide better care and better accessibility to those 60,000?
So for those 60,000 people, we're going to provide them with Mynd. We're a web-based platform, and we're going to help find the right therapy for them. It's going to be quick, easy, And most importantly, we're going to ensure that the people they're matched with are the most optimal. So how does Mynd actually work? So you enter your care preferences. You visit the site, enter your care preferences. In order to do that, we're going to ask you a series of questions. So how far would you be willing to travel? Would you prefer a male or female therapist? These types of questions. And through that, we're going to generate a care preference profile, and we're going to create up to 5 instant matches for them. So once these matches are generated, users will be able to review them and see which of these therapists have that right spark that they want. And they're going to narrow down their choices to 1 or 2, and they're going to decide how they want to communicate, how they want to connect. Do they want to have the therapist reach out to them, or do they want to reach out to the therapist and can take control of the whole process? We want to make this process as accommodating for them as possible. So I'm going to circle back and talk about the care preferences. How do we actually generate the care preferences? So before the user when the user first logs in, or when the user first signs in, they're going to be able to upload whatever data they want, social media, anything they find that is valuable for us to analyze. And we're going to take that data and generate it. And we're going to use machine learning, natural language processing, and psychometric data gathering so we can create a care profile. So we're not only asking the right questions, we're asking the relevant questions. And through this, we're going to know what kind of groups are they in, what's their personality, what kind of language they use, and we're going to try to optimize that therapist connection. After that, through this, the questionnaire, we're going to generate a questionnaire that adapts as they answer more and more questions, and it's going to provide them with a more optimal care. And we know that privacy is a big concern, especially with this platform. So we want to emphasize the fact that this entire process is completely optional, and users don't have to answer anything they don't want to answer.
All right, so how will Mynd be sustainable? We will charge therapists a per-month subscription fee of $30 in exchange for a beautiful profile on our platform. We arrived at this $30 price point and model for 2 reasons. First, we aim to recruit and sign up 1,000 therapists in DC by year 3. They will be guaranteed 4,000 leads through our university sales channel, which I'll elaborate on the next slide. Essentially, for this $360 per year subscription that they're paying around $90 per highly qualified lead, which is dramatically lower than the $100 to $200 price point that therapists verified that they would be willing to pay during our customer discovery. Second, this $30 per subscription per month matches that of our most popular competitor, Psychology Today. So, given that, and next slide. Given that, and sorry, can you go back?
Sure.
Given that, and given the 1,000 therapists that we aim to sign up by year 3, here's how our financials break down for a 3-year launch. In quarter 3, we will break even, and in year 3, we will generate $250,000 in DC alone. We show you DC to show that this model is scalable and replicable in any major US city. All right, so when we first launch, we are going to use web scraping and psychometrics in order to create a comprehensive list of therapists to provide to users. This will be free of charge to therapists, and then we can go with this list of therapists to universities and for free allow them to white label our matching service, and they can benefit right away from this matching service. They can reduce the strain on their own referral process that Sarah alluded to. Next, we'll go to therapists, and we will incentivize them to pay for a full profile add-on by offering incentives like video promotions and discounts. So one thing we aim to do within the first year is for the first 150 therapists who sign up, to offer video services for free of charge for them so that they can enhance the quality of their profile and we can enhance the experience on the platform for therapists and users.
Some milestones that we want to hit quickly if we pursue this go-to-market strategy. We want to partner with the 8 largest universities in DC in the first year and sign up 250 therapists. In the next year, we want to move on to partnering with the DC public school system and add an additional 500 therapists. In year 3, we're going to move on to upselling the existing relationships that we have by providing new products and services and sign up the remaining 250 therapists that we've identified as ideal matches for the service in DC. Now, the matching service is just the beginning. It's a great entry point because it allows us to leverage our minimal resources into reaching the most people in the most effective way at the early stages. As the number of therapists on the matching service increases, we're going to be able to decrease the downtime between when someone requests care and when they're actually getting a consultation with the therapist. We estimate we can get that time down to about an hour in the future. Finally, we're going to move on to different products and services like telemental health, the provision of therapy services over video chat exclusively. This is especially effective for tackling the transportation and cost limitations to accessing care that we mentioned earlier in the presentation. Now, there are some competitors in the space. We've mentioned psychology today, but their process is burdensome and it is not a friendly user experience. That's bad for users because it's actually still their best option right now. That's why we decided to step in and do something about it. I'm Sebastian Hood, and I'll serve as Mynd's Chief Executive Officer, and I will be in charge of maintaining strategic relationships as well as allocating capital towards product development in the future.
Dr. Sarah Cho Kim, and I am an assistant professor, I have to look up on the screen, at GW's Graduate School of Education and Human Development, and I will be helping to recruit therapists to the site.
I'm Jeff Schulteis, and I'm going to be overseeing the development of the product and for new features, along with maintenance, and to make sure that we can scale the product as more users come in.
I'm Lauren Hoffman. I will serve as Mynd's Chief Operating Officer. I bring my experience from consulting at PricewaterhouseCoopers to make sure that our business model is scalable and effective, and we're a healthy company from day one.
The system around people needs to change if they're going to get the care they need, but it's not going to happen automatically. With your help, we can be the ones to change it. We'd love to answer some questions. Yeah.
I'm so sorry, but I'm still kind of confused. So, I mean, obviously, healthcare is one of those things that everyone is hearing about these days.
Yeah.
So, is this offering free therapy for people who need it, or is it account for their specific insurance plans that they have? I'm just not sure. Like, I feel like probably one of the major barriers for students getting therapy and to begin with is because they just can't afford it, and if they have to choose between like having something to eat and making a trip. So I'm just that factor is just still unclear to me.
Yeah, absolutely. So as we mentioned, one of our key strategies for addressing the cost aspect of attaining therapy is going to be the telemental health platform. With that platform, students can get the same quality of service. However, the need for the therapist to host them in a physical office space and handle other administrative tasks is going to take about 30% off of their overhead costs for providing that service. We're going to translate all of these savings onto the user because we don't take any fee off the top of a therapy session. So that's one strategy for addressing the cost. Additionally, we have done a lot of research on how we could potentially entice universities into entering partnerships with us to subsidize care for their students through the platform. This would be an ideal replacement for other purely outsourcing services that they're using because it's still going to provide students with that same quality therapy they'd be getting in a mental health center, but they don't have to maintain the mental health center themselves, so they can translate the savings of closing the mental health center onto a subsidy for students to seek care from outside providers.
And can I ask answer that more directly? So students, what we're hoping to do is also to make sure we find a therapist who matches, who has their, and accepts their insurance too. So that would be another piece of it.
And I guess, I mean, a big part of the problem also is that I want to say like 85% of therapists probably don't even take insurance anymore.
Exactly, which is one of the reasons it was not a focus of the presentation.
Yeah.
The regulatory environment and the nature of insurance itself is very ambiguous, and it's something we would need more scale as an organization to tackle properly.
And
Please.
So, talk to me about, the diversifying the revenue streams and kind of other ways that you guys are thinking about kind of getting the financial part of this working well so you can really grow the team and the product.
You want to start, Shai?
Sure. Okay, so as we mentioned, right now we're starting the revenue stream with a subscription model, and that's for this matching service. That's the first way we're entering this market is with a matching platform because that's where we think we can penetrate it. From there, though, we're going to expand to other offerings once we have this user base. How we projected our revenue, is that what you're getting at, like how we projected it, or?
I mean, under revenue, you have one thing, which is we're getting therapists to give us some money, but that's there's risk in that if the cost of acquiring customers is a little bit too high. So a way to de-risk that is, well, there are all these other revenue. So what are the other revenue streams you're thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, once we have this infrastructure in place to provide ideal matches for people seeking a professional service, we can leverage it for most other professions that operate on a similar model. We've looked into the number of nutritionists, pardon me, occupational therapists, and other people who provide a similar service in DC. The ones who would be an ideal match to be a provider on our platform number about 750, adding another 750% on top, not 750%, sorry, almost doubling the revenue that we can collect in DC alone, while also substantially reducing our risk. Now, in terms of broadening our scope, we can pursue that. We can also upsell therapists on more than just providing conventional in-person therapy by leveraging the telemental health platform, by allowing them to provide educational resources to organize group therapy sessions. We can expand laterally and vertically in many ways.
Sebastian, great story.
Thank you.
And it's super heartfelt. So I love that you opened up with that. So 90% of Google spenders churn after 9 months, and they're all predominantly in the lead gen game, right? So like fundamentally, the value prop I see here is you're gonna get therapists on board because the cost of acquisition is lower, but that's all contingent upon the quality of the lead, right? So that is a multi-billion-dollar business, is like the lead generation of quality for the services industry. Now, this thing that you had mentioned, which is the care preferences.
Yeah.
In my mind, that's the IP of this business. You had mentioned machine learning, NLP, and all that other stuff. Can you unpack that? Because that is going to be the high match rate to the therapist that will get to a lower CPA, which will build the base of the business, right? So talk to me. That to me seems to be the IP. So take me through how that's different than ZocDoc and kind of all that other stuff.
So we're going through that together, and to be honest, we have been talking a little bit more about that in terms of the research part and the technology piece, but there is already research out there that finds that there are certain qualities that attract certain types of clients to therapists. There's already research that's established out there, whether it be based on, gender preferences, religious. I don't know if we'll get into those type of details, but there are some superficial characteristics as well as other characteristics which we will pick up on through social media if they're willing to volunteer that information. And so there has already been a field of research there, which I've done some work on because I've actually worked with clients who do not want to come to therapy and what prevents them from coming. So we will eliminate those barriers and try to think of ways to attract what makes a good match for therapy.
So let me clarify, because I know
Yes.
we're running out of time.
Sorry,
What is different about the onboarding process of a potential consumer here than a ZocDoc? Like that is, or right? Like this is the high qualified matching.
Yeah.
Seems to be on this care preferences is, like in my mind, I wrote care preferences is the IP.
Yeah, sure.
It has to be, like, right? It has to be, right? So what is different about the data you're collecting from a user that's not collected elsewhere to create a higher match rate?
I can talk about that. So in terms of like a lot of the questionnaires that you'll get from other sites like BetterHelp and other telehealth platforms, they don't ask you, they ask you questions that are really far off from each other. So they'll ask you if you're depressed, and they'll ask you eating disorder, but that's a bad example. But what we want to do is we want to generate enough data from the users, so then we can start to kind of understand, hey, this person is in these Facebook groups. He's very active on social media. He does all these things. He's kind of extroverted. And then when he answers a question, he says, "No, I am not this. No, I am not extroverted." Right? We want to have a question that's relevant that comes after, so they can feel comfortable if they see that the questions that they're answering next have no relation. They can just stop there. They don't have to go through it.
Got it. So then the care preferences value prop kicks in once you get to scale, so then you can observe traits to then better onboard users?
At scale, we can observe traits and assess the efficacy of matches we provide to optimize it.
Yeah.
However, the real value to the user can be introduced on day one because we're going to be asking them a dynamic questionnaire. If you say, you know, I'm a very introverted person, and the next question is, how many nights a week do you go partying? That's inherently a flawed question, and one that might come up a lot when you're getting assessed for mental health treatment. The next question we might ask them instead is, how do you spend your time alone?
That comes from the MLP and stuff, but will require a lot of user data to get there.
Yeah.
Yes, which we can acquire through the voluntary divulgence of social media impressions.
Thumbs up.
Thank you all so much for your time. We really appreciate it.